My name is Rowan. I used to work in a children's education program in Oregon. I had my own home, a loving boyfriend, and a family. Or at least, I thought I did. Until one morning, I was suspended from work over an anonymous complaint that I had behaved inappropriately with a child. I'd never seen a look as terrifying as my boss's that day, as if I were some kind of monster. Within a few hours, my whole life collapsed. I lost my job, lost my friends, lost people's trust. All because of a lie. From the girl I once called my little sister. Have you ever been betrayed by someone in your own family? Stabbed in the back when you least expected it? Leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe if someone's ever tried to erase your truth. And in the next part, I'll tell you how one false accusation destroyed 7 years of my life, and how I took every bit of it back. I'm my mother's daughter, but I was never their daughter. My mom, Cynthia, had me when she was 19, after an accidental reunion with her high school ex. That man disappeared before I could even talk. For the first few years, it was the two of us in a tiny apartment in northern Oregon. She worked 2 jobs and I learned to entertain myself, cook instant noodles and fall asleep alone by the time I was 6. Everything changed when she met Dean Whitmore, a successful widowed businessman with a little girl named Brielle. When I was 8, my mom remarried. We moved into a shiny 2-story home in Salem with a backyard, white fence, and an SUV in the driveway. My mom smiled more. She called it a new beginning. And me? I was told to call him Dad Dean. You don't have to love him right away, my mom said as she brushed my hair in front of the mirror the night before the wedding. But try. This family will be better for you. So I tried. I got good grades, helped around the house, never got into trouble at school. But no one hung my drawings on the living room fireplace. No one took pictures of my summer camp projects and framed them. No one ever said, "Our Rowan is so talented." They only said, "She's a good student, a little distant though." Brielle was different. She was 4 at the time, with curly blonde hair like a doll, and a voice that always called out, "Daddy," or "Mommy." She had her own room, birthday parties at indoor play centers, and enough princess dresses to match each season. I slept on the bottom bunk with a purple comforter Mom had bought from a clearance sale. But I didn't hate her. Honestly, I never hated Brielle. When kids teased her in preschool for mispronouncing words, I was the one who helped her practice each syllable in front of the mirror. When she cried alone in her room after a teacher said her art project was a mess, I sat beside her and helped cut out yarn pieces until we finished a butterfly together. Brielle once hugged me during a thunderstorm and whispered, "You're the only one I'm not afraid to lose." Dean never hit me. He was polite, successful, composed, but the way he looked at me whenever I walked into a room, you couldn't mistake it. Like I polluted the air in his house. One time, I was chosen to speak at my high school graduation. I came home holding my honor certificate and a small bouquet a classmate had given me. Dean didn't even look up from the financial section of his newspaper. "Don't let that go to your head," he said. "This family has standards." I'd grown used to my mother's silence. She always chose peace. She used to say, "Dean's a good man. He takes care of all of us. Don't take it to heart." But what she didn't say was that the price of that peace was always me. When I applied to college, I got a full scholarship to Oregon State. Education major, child psychology track. I remember the day the letter came. I danced into the kitchen where Mom was stirring soup and Dean was reading the paper. "I got the scholarship," I shouted, my heart pounding. Dean didn't even lift his head. "That school isn't exactly prestigious." "And Mom?" She gave a soft smile and said, "Well, that's good, sweetheart." I turned away, feeling like I'd cracked open from the inside. Brielle was in 10th grade then. She'd gotten into drama and painting, wore all black, wrote poetry, covered her walls with indie band posters. And just like I had once quietly stood by her as a child, I was the one who took her to bookstores, picked out watercolor sets, encouraged her to join the theater club. When she got rejected from her first lead role, I made her hot cocoa and told her, "No one shines forever unless they have the courage to stand back on stage." But somewhere along the way, she started pulling back every time I walked in. Her gaze changed. It wasn't trust anymore. It was jealousy. Quiet, slow-burning jealousy. One time, I overheard her on the phone with a friend. "Rowan? She's the golden child, the perfect angel. Teachers love her, but I'm the only one who knows she's not all that." I stood behind the door, listening to her bitter laugh. It felt colder than a February wind, and I wondered, had I been holding on to something that was never real? I never expected that the one I had protected would be the one to push me into the darkest pit of my life. I still remember how that paper felt in my hands. Cold, damp, trembling like it had a heartbeat of its own. It was a photocopy, pale blue ink on lined paper, the first line written in wobbly cursive. "My name is A. I'm in 3rd grade. Miss Rowan scares me. She looks at me weird." Sunlight from the window hit the thin page, illuminating every awkward letter. No full name, no date, no witness. But it was enough to cost me my job. I read the description of the inappropriate behavior over and over. It claimed I had bent down to whisper into a boy's ear in class when no other adult was around. A vague detail, except it matched something real. I had once helped a boy named Jonah practice pronunciation because he stuttered. That day, it was the two of us in the reading timer room. The other staff member had gone home early. I remember clearly. I gave Jonah a sticker to wear on his shirt after he read a full sentence fluently for the first time. That detail. Only I, Jonah, and his family would know. Or someone I had told. The dinner table. During a night when I thought I was casually sharing with my little sister. I set the letter down. My eyes blurred. Not from tears, but from my brain refusing a possibility. It couldn't be Brielle. It couldn't. I thought back to the past few months, how she had moved back into our parents' house after taking a break from school to find her path. She'd posted pictures from art shows, cafe outings, always looking more carefree than ever. Every time I asked, "When are you going back to college?" she'd give a dry smile. "To worry, I know what I'm doing." Back then, I thought it was confidence. Now I see it was planning. 3 days after receiving that photocopied letter, I got a message from Jenna, a former coworker at the after-school center where I'd worked for over 3 years. "Rowan, you need to hear this," she wrote, attaching an audio file. I waited until night to listen, locked the door, drew the curtains, turned on my reading lamp, put on my headphones. The first voice was Brielle's. I recognized it instantly. That slightly husky tone, the familiar mockery she used whenever she talked to her best friend. I mean, maybe all I have to do is write a few lines, drop the right kind of hint, and the whole stage clears itself. "What do you mean?" "Rowan. Little Miss Perfect. The center's favorite. Mom and Dean always say she's the one holding the family together. Enough. It's my turn." "You're actually gonna accuse her?" "No need to actually accuse. Just plant the right seed. Places like that, when they hear child and weird behavior in the same sentence, they start cutting staff automatically." I don't remember how long I sat there after the recording ended. I remember my chest felt crushed, like something was pressing down on it, and my ears were ringing, like my brain refused to take in one more word. Clear the stage. I thought it was jealousy. I thought she was just drifting away. And for a long time, I mourned the loss of the bond we once had as sisters, but never. Never. Did I imagine she'd make something up, use a child as a prop to take me down? I remembered the look in her eyes the day I packed up and left our mom's house after being suspended. Mom didn't walk me to the door. Dean didn't say a word. Only Brielle stood on the porch, arms crossed, nodding at me like I was an actor being replaced in a play. Now I understand. She was the director of that play. I printed out the transcript of the recording. Each black letter hit like a punch. "You're the only one I'm not afraid to lose." That line echoed in my head like a memory from a different world, a world where I once believed love was enough to hold people together. But love can't outshine envy, and sometimes people destroy the best thing in their life to prove it wasn't beyond their reach. I don't know what hurt more, losing my job, losing friends, or losing faith in my own blood. After an internal investigation I wasn't even allowed to attend, the center I had worked at for 3 years issued an official decision: indefinite suspension, pending further legal review. In other words, they wanted me gone before I could damage their image. I remember the day I cleared my desk. A worn-out cardboard box held a few picture frames, a fountain pen I loved, and a yarn bunny a student had given me last year. No one said goodbye, not a single glance that held on. I called a few close friends, the same ones I used to drink with on Thanksgiving, who'd come over for pizza on Christmas Eve. Most didn't pick up. One sent a text. "I think we should keep some distance for now. Hope you understand." I understood perfectly what it felt like to be erased from the list. To walk into the local corner store and see the cashier, the one who used to call me the sweetest teacher in town, suddenly avoid eye contact. I sold my 2015 Civic. Didn't get a great price, but it was enough to cover 1 month of rent and part of the ER bill from that late-night panic attack. When I couldn't breathe, hands clenched, frozen in fear, Mom showed up one rainy afternoon, unannounced. She hovered at the doorway, a stranger now, clutching a torn umbrella. "You should let this blow over," she said after I poured her some tea. "Making a scene won't help anything." "What do you mean? That I should let myself be destroyed just so the family can stay picture perfect?" "That's not what I meant, but Brielle is still your sister. And you know Dean, he's very sensitive about reputation. And I'm not? When I lost my job, when I was looked at like a criminal, when I couldn't sleep for nights, have you even once asked how I'm holding up?" She looked away, saying nothing, sipped her tea, then stood up and said quietly, "You've always been strong. I know you'll get through this." I didn't walk her to the door. A few days later, I went to my mom's house to see Brielle. She opened the door in an oversized hoodie, messy bun, no makeup. Still the same rebellious teen version of herself. Except now, I couldn't look her in the eye without something burning in my chest. "I want to talk," I said. "You still think I'm the one behind it?" She looked up, eyes slightly red. "You know what you did, Brielle. I didn't do anything. I never wrote anything. I don't know why everyone's blaming me. There's a recording." She didn't react, only whispered, "I used to think you were the only one who understood me." I didn't respond. I was too tired to console her again. That night, I went home and started sorting through my stuff, not because I had plans to move, but because I needed something to keep my mind busy. I pulled out an old cardboard box from under the bed, where I had thrown a bunch of random things from my mom's house. Old scripts of Brielle's, my college textbooks, some Polaroids, and a small tin box, once shaped like a heart-shaped cookie container, with "Don't touch B's secrets" scrawled on the lid. I hadn't planned to open it, but it slipped from my hands while I was rearranging, and the lid popped open. Inside, beneath a mess of school notes, was a green USB drive with a star-shaped charm, the one I had given Brielle for her 19th birthday. I hesitated, but eventually I plugged it into my laptop. Most of the files were selfies, clips of her bedroom, theater rehearsal videos. But inside a folder named Trash was a single file, dated 2 years ago. vid_716_party, mauve. I clicked. Flashing lights, blurry EDM music, a crowded room. Brielle was in the middle, holding a vodka bottle, eyes bloodshot. Her voice shouted over the noise. Do you know what? I hate how she's always right, always smart, always getting praised, rowing this, rowing that. I'm done. Someone off camera yelled, "You mean your sister?" "Yeah," she screamed. "My beloved sister, the one everyone worships. I swear, if I ever get the chance, I'll ruin her life." Laughter erupted. Then the screen went black. It wasn't legal evidence, but it was proof to me that my gut had never been wrong. I can't remember exactly when I stopped waiting for an apology. Maybe it was that night, sitting in my damp apartment, watching the video on loop until I could read her expressions even with the sound off. I realized what I needed wasn't remorse. It was the truth, dragged into daylight, even if I had to do it myself. I got a job at a small neighborhood bookstore, the only place that didn't ask for anything except my hours and whether I could alphabetize books. The owner was Mr. Ray, a widower in his 60s, quiet but with kind eyes. "You used to work in education?" he asked when he saw me walk straight to the children's section on instinct. "Yes," I said softly. "Not anymore." He didn't ask more, and I knew I'd found the right place to start over. A quiet place, but not a judging one. By day I worked. At night I studied law. Not to become a lawyer. I didn't have the time or money for that. But I needed to understand how a system could push me so far down, so fast. That's how I found pro se litigation, representing yourself in court. I read every article, every case about false allegations, every guide on filing wrongful claims. I bought used books, downloaded free resources, joined forums of people who'd lived through the same nightmare. Some nights I'd read 10 pages and retain nothing. My head would buzz from the dense legal terms. But I kept reading, kept underlining, kept learning. One day, while digging through resources on a forum called Innocence Voices, I found a post linking to an investigative report by a journalist named Samantha Keller. She specialized in civil cases that went ignored because they lacked clear criminal evidence. Her writing was sharp, but not cold. There was a quiet rage in her tone, like injustice physically hurt her. I found her email, wrote and deleted it at least 10 times, then finally hit send. Subject: Hi, Ms. Keller. My name is Rowan Whitmore. I'm not famous. I don't have a lawyer. I have no one backing me. But I have a false accusation, and I have a video from the person who accused me. If you're still reading, please consider meeting with me, even if it's to say there's nothing you can do. Sincerely, Rowan. 3 days later, she replied, "Too familiar a subject. Still stings every time. Meet me at Roost Cafe, 4 p.m. this Friday. Bring everything you've got." I'll bring my gut. Samantha Keller wasn't what I expected. She looked younger than I'd imagined. Brown hair tied low, glasses, dark sweater. But her eyes were different, sharp, focused, missing nothing. "I've got 45 minutes, she said. "If you can convince me you're worth writing about, I'll give you 45 days. I handed her the audio recording of Brielle's voice, the drunken video, and the scanned copy of the anonymous letter. I told her everything, from the suspension, to losing my friends, to my mother's silence, Dean's denial, and Brielle's shameless performance of fragility. Samantha didn't take notes. When I got to the part about finding the USB, she gently rested her hand on her coffee cup and asked, "Do you have any proof that video wasn't staged or edited?" "It's the original file. The date and time match the metadata on the device. I've kept every format intact." "That's still not enough," Samantha said. "The video shows motive, but it doesn't prove she wrote the letter." She was right. But painfully, I had hoped that maybe it would be enough. "I can help you investigate further," she said after a pause, "but I need your written consent to access personal records, your old work email, and any other data involved. I need time, and I need you not to give up halfway." I gripped my bag handle. I've lost everything, I said slowly. All I have left is the truth. Samantha didn't smile, but I saw a small shift at the corner of her mouth, as if some part of her, tiny as it was, believed I wouldn't fall apart. Then, she said, pulling out her phone, we start with the Wi-Fi history at her house, the month it all happened. Handwriting can lie, but network history? Early in the spring, I saw Brielle's face on the cover of a popular podcast called Voice Unfiltered. A carefully angled profile shot, dreamy lighting, and a bold headline. Surviving family trauma, the story of a girl who dared to speak the truth. I stared at the screen, a chill spreading across my chest. In the photo, she wore a gray turtleneck, hands folded in front of her face a perfect blend of fragility and resolve. The exact image of a brave survivor the public is quick to embrace. I clicked play. Her voice came through, soft and theatrical. There were things I couldn't say when I was 15. I used to think, if I stayed quiet, it would all pass. But when the hurt comes from the person you trust most, silence becomes the thing that kills you. I stayed there, motionless, for what felt like 35 endless minutes. Not because I believed her, but because I still couldn't believe she had actually gone this far. Where she didn't outright lie, she used vague language, metaphor, carefully blurred lines. She never named names, but anyone who knew me, who had heard even parts of the story, knew exactly who the older sister was. I wasn't stunned by the malice. I was stunned by how easily people embraced her performance as truth. Less than a week later, I got word that Brielle had been invited to speak in the Youth Voices Rise campaign, a school-based mental health education tour funded by the Oregon Mental Health Support Fund. She was set to visit more than 10 high schools, sharing her journey through trauma. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Samantha sent me a short message. Do you want to follow the legal process, or do you want to choose your moment? I replied, I'll choose my moment. 3 days later, I sent a brown envelope, no return address, to the headquarters of Youth Voices Rise. Inside was a full transcript of Brielle's drunken confession, metadata verification of the video's authenticity, and an excerpt from a recorded conversation where she said clearly, she's better than me, always getting praise. I just want to knock that halo off her head. I didn't ask them to respond. But 3 days later, an internal email from the program was leaked on a teacher's forum. We have decided to suspend all engagements with speaker Brielle Whitmore until further clarification can be made regarding the information recently brought to our attention. She disappeared from the tour schedule. The podcast was removed. Every glowing article on social media vanished without a trace. I returned to the bookstore, kept shelving books in alphabetical order. My hands trembled slightly as I put A Man Called Ova back on the shelf. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt lighter. About a week later, Samantha called. You follow financial news? I don't have time, I said. Dean Whitmore, his company just filed for bankruptcy. Bad investments. A line of creditors is already forming. The White House with the picket fence, the one where I used to do homework on the steps, braid Brielle's hair before school, peek through the door as my stepfather told me to not make a scene, was now under foreclosure. Brielle lost her financial support. She deleted her social media accounts, withdrew from every media campaign. An old acquaintance messaged me. Saw Brielle applying for a retail job at a ceramics shop. She looked thin and worn out. No one saw what I had seen, that some people, when stripped of the stage, finally have to face themselves. Without the spotlight. I never thought I'd return there, the event hall of an aging hotel on 8th Avenue, with hastily arranged flower bouquets and soft yellow lights trying to mask the tension of a dramatic fundraising night. But I was the one who pushed the glass doors open, a thick printed folder in hand, full of evidence, timestamps, recordings, metadata, and Brielle's own words. Not to reclaim my reputation, but to end the lie, completely. The event that night was my mother's initiative, Evening for Voices, a fundraiser for school-based mental health programs. Brielle was the guest of honor, set to give the keynote and a live interview with the local TV station. I arrived at the opening time in a long gray coat and modest black dress, my hair pulled back. I didn't need attention. I needed timing. As I walked in, heads turned. I recognized a few faces. People who once shook my hand when I worked with children, now avoiding eye contact like I carried a stain. Across the room, my mother was shaking hands with donors, smiling with the poise she'd worn her whole life. Polite, graceful, never revealing flaws. Brielle was seated near the podium, notebook in hand, wearing a polite, practiced smile. Thinner than before, but still the public's favorite kind of strong survivor. The one who fell and rose again for the sake of the community. Samantha stood a few steps behind me, mini recorder hidden under her coat. She didn't need to signal. I walked straight toward the podium. The MC was mid-speech when I raised my hand. Low, but clear enough to be picked up by the mic. "Excuse me, I have something to say. And I can prove I have the right to say it." All heads turned. Some cameras shifted. The MC hesitated. "Ma'am, this is a scheduled speaking event." "I know," I said calmly, firmly. "I'm not here to disrupt. I'm here to reclaim something I've spent 7 years trying to protect. The truth." My mother froze. Brielle went stiff, hands tightening on her notebook. I stepped up to the stage, slowly opened the folder. "My name is Rowan Whitmore. I was suspended from my job over an anonymous letter accusing me of inappropriate behavior with a child. I lost my home, my career, lived in fear, because people chose to believe a story no one had verified." I paused, locking eyes with my mother. That letter had no signature, but it included a detail only someone from my family could know. A detail I once told my little sister. The same sister sitting here tonight. Being called a survivor. The room murmured. I held up the printed transcripts of Brielle's confessions. From the drunk video, the audio with her friend, the digital records Samantha had pulled. "I'm not asking for an apology," I said, eyes steady on the camera. "I'm refusing to let this lie be the last thing people remember about me." Brielle shot up. "You're making this up. Do you want me to play the video, Brielle? Or the recording where you say you'd destroy my life?" Her body stiffened, eyes wide. Then she lowered herself into the chair, trembling. And what no one expected came next. She cried. "I never meant for it to go this far," she sobbed. "I wanted Mom to notice me, for Dad to finally see me. I didn't think they'd really fire you. And once it started, I didn't know how to stop it." My mother sank into her chair, hand over her mouth, her face pale. In the back of the room, Dean held onto the chair, his face blank, his body still. Then, like someone who had long seen this ending coming, he turned and walked out in total silence. After that night, I thought I'd feel relief. But truth doesn't erase the past. It only makes it impossible for people to keep pretending. I led the hall to a flurry of footsteps behind me. Samantha walked beside me, saying nothing. She knew I needed silence. When I got home, my phone showed over 30 missed calls, all from the same familiar number, Mom. I didn't call back. But the next morning, she came. I opened the door and found her standing there, holding a small paper bag, her eyes lost like someone who had just lost a map. "You might not want to hear this," she said, but I had to come. I didn't invite her in, but I stepped onto the porch and sat on the old wooden step. She eased down beside me and placed the bag gently on the step. "Last night," she began, then stopped. "I didn't think it was real." "Didn't think," I echoed quietly. "You thought I was struggling for 7 years because of a joke?" She pulled a tissue and wiped her face. At the time, I was scared. Scared that if what Brielle said was true and I did nothing, It'd be worse. Dean said we had to act quickly. Protect the child who seemed more vulnerable. And the child who was thrown out on the street with no one to believe her, nowhere to go? She wasn't vulnerable. She stayed quiet, fidgeting with the tissue like she wanted to hide her hands. "I'm sorry, truly sorry," she whispered. "You might not believe it, but I thought of you. You thought of me," I cut in. "But you never called, not even once." A light breeze passed through, carrying the scent of dry leaves and rain left over from the night before. After a moment, my mother placed the paper bag in my hands. "There are some childhood photos in there," she said. "I kept them separate because I was afraid Dean wouldn't like seeing you in the family frames." I didn't open the bag. I didn't need to look to know the past sat there like a quiet piece of evidence that I had once existed, only to be trimmed out of the frame like something that didn't fit. "I want to say," she continued, her voice breaking, "no matter what happened, you're still my daughter, and if you're willing, I want you to come home. We're family, Rowan." "Family," I said, "doesn't throw someone out over an unverified story." I wasn't angry at her, the way I once had been. I felt there was a gap between us so long that even if we reached out, we wouldn't touch. That night, Brielle texted me. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I'd like to see you once. If that's okay?" I told her to meet me at the park near my house, the one where we used to play tag as kids. The air was crisp, the ground littered with fallen leaves. Brielle arrived 15 minutes late. She wore an old coat, her hair tied low, no makeup. Her face showed a kind of exhaustion I'd never seen on her before, not from losing a contract, but from losing the role she'd clung to for so many years. "Thanks for coming," she said, standing a few steps away, like getting closer might make me disappear. "What do you want to say?" I asked, my voice calm. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "And not because of what happened after, but because I know I destroyed someone who didn't deserve it." I met her gaze, steady, unblinking. I wasn't looking for guilt, didn't need her to cry. I only needed to know. Did she truly understand? Or was this another performance? "When I was 15, she continued, I just wanted someone to notice me. Dad always compared me to you. Mom only talked about your achievements. I know that doesn't excuse anything, but I didn't know how to stop, and when I finally wanted to, it was too late." "You're right. It's too late to undo what happened, but it's not too late to own up to it. If you can't forgive me, I understand." "I forgive you, Brielle." She looked up, eyes wide. "I forgive you," I repeated, "not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to carry this anger with me another day." The wind passed through, cold but not cruel. "But that doesn't mean I'm coming back," I added. "It doesn't mean I'll let anyone in the family control my life ever again." There was something in her eyes, like the first time I saw her at 4 years old. Lost, scared, and needing someone to reach for her. But this time, I wasn't the one reaching. And I knew, forgiveness doesn't mean returning to where it all began. It means moving forward, without letting those who once knocked you down walk beside you again. I never imagined myself standing on stage at a national conference in front of hundreds of people holding a microphone, with a digital screen behind me that read, "Justice misled, systemic failures in handling baseless allegations." But I was there, wearing a charcoal blazer I borrowed from Jasmine, hands slightly trembling around my printed speech, but my voice didn't shake. "I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a psychologist. I'm someone who was once labeled the problem. Because someone wrote a few lines and a system chose to believe the worst first." After the panel, a middle-aged woman approached me. She wore a simple linen dress and had a pin shaped like a small angel on her collar. "I'm the mother of a boy who was falsely accused," she said, her voice trembling. "He couldn't take it. He didn't live to prove his innocence. Thank you for speaking up. I didn't speak, only held her hand, because in that moment, silence said more than anything else could. Samantha Keller, the first woman who believed me without needing a sworn statement, launched her new podcast, The Weight of Silence. The first episode was titled Rowan, Reborn from a Lie. This isn't a revenge story, her voice said in the intro. It's a story of recovery, of people who had no cameras to record the truth, no lawyers by their side, just the will to stop being silent. I listened to that episode on a rainy night, curled up next to Jasmine on the couch. A faint glow from the kitchen light reached across the room. Every time my voice came on during the interview, unpolished, honest, unedited, Jasmine squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. I turned toward her, into those steady gray eyes. Jasmine came into my life when everything was still broken, when I still had wounds that hadn't healed, when I still jolted awake at unexpected knocks on the door. We met at a tech skills workshop for women re-entering the workforce. She was a volunteer instructor. I was the woman sitting in the back, not ready to learn anything, only needing to hear a voice that wasn't my own thoughts. She never asked about my past, never pitied me, never pushed. She said, "You don't have to know where you're going, you only have to know you won't be stuck here forever." And she kept that promise. Now, we live together in a small apartment in Portland. There's a string of wind chimes by the window, something she picked up on our first beach trip together. The kitchen always smells faintly of lemon and cinnamon, and every night Jasmine holds my hand as we fall asleep, like a quiet reminder that no matter what the world throws at us, she's still here. I used the rest of my unemployment insurance, plus donations from podcast listeners, to open a small center on the East Side, Clear Voice Legal Aid. A modest office with just 3 staff members and a team of volunteer legal aides. But it's enough to help people like I once was, those without a voice, who can't afford an attorney, whose truths go unheard because they don't know how to tell them in a believable way. There's a young woman named Tasha, 24, fired for alleged harassment because she rejected a coworker's advances and he retaliated. A single father, accused of abusing his son by an ex-wife trying to win custody. I sit across from them, hold their hands, and say the one sentence I once wished someone had said to me. We can't promise results, but we promise you won't go through this alone. Some days, when I'm editing a legal brief for a client, Jasmine leans against the doorway, arms crossed, smiling gently. "You know," she says, "when I first met you, I thought you were like a door slammed shut from the inside." I look up and smile, and now I see a whole house, with doors and paths, but one that knows when to open. And when to stay strong. No words, only movement, closing the space between us, holding her tight, feeling her heartbeat steady and sure beneath the fabric I've come to know. I am living. And this time, it's a life no one can take from me. That night, it rained. Not hard, but steady. The kind of rain that quietly reminds you some sadness doesn't need thunder to settle in. I stood by the kitchen window, placing freshly picked wildflowers into a vase. The scent of damp leaves and earth clung to the paper towel I used to wipe the stems, mixing with the faint citrus and mint that lingered in the air. The petals were small, uneven, but vibrant. They didn't need to be perfect to be cherished. I'd learned that from myself. On the table was an envelope. No return address. "Rowan, if you still want to read." I recognized the handwriting. Neater than before, but still tilted left, slightly unbalanced. Like its writer. I made tea, folded the towel, turned on the living room light. The warm yellow glow spilling across the wall, filled with snapshots from the legal center's events and weekend hikes with Jasmine. When I sat down, the old sofa gave its familiar soft creak. I placed the letter on my lap, fingers tracing the edge before opening it. Brielle's voice whispered through the dark blue ink. "Dear Rowan, I'm not expecting you to respond. I don't dare to. I don't know if I even deserve to appear in your life again after everything. But I'm not writing this letter to ask for forgiveness anymore. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for not letting me live forever in the lie I created. Thank you for not becoming the person I was always afraid you would turn into. A person who seeks revenge. I know you could have destroyed me, the way I once did to you. But you didn't. And because of that, I've started to understand. Real strength isn't about making others pay. It's about not letting them drag you down. I'm working at an art center for hearing-impaired children now. I don't know if anyone will ever trust me again, but I'm trying to change, even if it's a little at a time. You don't have to remember me, but if you can, please remember that at one point in time, I truly admired you. And maybe part of me still does? Well, I folded the letter gently, like tucking away a memory that no longer hurt, placed it in the drawer beneath the bookshelf, between my case files and notebooks. Not to preserve it, but to know that it was over. Jasmine walked out of the bedroom, hair damp from a shower, holding a book. Letter? She asked softly, without needing a closer look. From Brielle. You okay? Jasmine asked, sitting beside me on the sofa. After a moment, I spoke, my voice quiet enough not to disturb the calm. I don't need to be welcomed back. I don't need justice handed to me. Jasmine gently squeezed my hand, like she understood without needing further explanation. I need to live, I continued, to live without being defined by someone else's mistakes. Outside the window, the rain kept falling, but inside, I sat still, within the space I'd claimed for myself, with the people I'd chosen, the memories I'd kept, and the life I was continuing to build. One breath at a time. I don't know where you're listening to this story. Maybe on your way home, maybe during a rainy night, or maybe in the middle of a day when you too feel misunderstood, dismissed, or are trying to step out of something that's been holding you down for far too long. If that's the case, I hope you understand. You don't have to be welcomed back to prove your worth. There are families we're born into, and families we choose after learning who truly stays when everything falls apart. Have you ever been in a situation like that? When your truth was ignored, your kindness was misunderstood, and you had to rise, not for applause, not for praise, but simply to live true to yourself? Share your story in the comments. Maybe your words will reach someone else who's quietly enduring what you once went through. And if you care about stories of family, of breaking and healing, of how people learn to rise again after trust is shattered, hit follow. Because in the stories to come, we'll go deeper into the things no one ever finishes saying at the dinner table. Thank you for listening, and if you're in the middle of finding your way back to yourself, remember, you are not alone.